Hello, guys, and welcome to episode number 5. Episode number 5 of the 2 It KO podcast. I'm OG Albine. I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. King L5, right over there, greatest Poke rapper alive. And we're joined with recent spoilers, 3, 2, 1, PPL champion, the Uzi Gunner. Do you want to say hi? Let people know what's going on.
Good evening, or is it afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of all kinds. My name is the Uzi Gunner, and I just retired from Draft League.
What better way to start off retirement? Or however long retirement extended break with jumping on and talking about Draft League for an hour and a half. Yeah, jumping on and talking about Draft League immediately. There's no actual retiring. Even if you're not playing, you're sniffing it. You're close. But yeah, we're gonna be kind of talking about whether it be Uzi's PPL run, the recent DCL developments and things like that, tournaments and stuff like that. So if you guys do enjoy today's episode of the podcast, be sure to drop a like as well as subscribe to the channel. On our way to 5K by the end of the year. We got a couple months left, so I'd really appreciate it if you help me out along that journey. And with that being said, let's talk PPL really quick. You recently just came off of a big finals win there, Uzi. Do you want to kind of give us any insight into that matchup? Any struggles? Any like insight on your preparation process going into the matchup or anything like that?
Yeah, sure. But wait, one sec. Let me just pull up something real quick.
Ooh, the belt, baby. The heart. I haven't pulled up. You can't see it. I have it pulled up to you on the side, and I specifically moved our face cam so we can see you holding the belt right here, too. Yeah. So there you go. I'm here for it.
Exactly. Gotta dress up for the occasion. You know what I'm saying?
So true.
But
you earned the hardware. You gotta show it off.
Yeah, for sure. But nah, for real though, like this PPL finals was definitely, I would say, a very eventful one. Yeah, I suppose that's the right term to say it. Like, to anybody that doesn't know, I mean, I said it every chance I could get, but like, this is my 4th finals in a row in the last 4 seasons that I've competed in, as like Shukr Alhamdulillah and everything. And I would say that since this was gonna be my last draft league for a while, I really wanted to give my everything out there and so on. But the preparation was definitely tumultuous, I suppose, because the thing is, the last time Ricky and I played, he kind of beat my ass real bad. And like, obviously I ended up getting bailed out thanks to a certain Gouging Fire, which we shall talk about pretty soon. But this, like, I knew that for this time around, I needed a proper game plan. I needed proper sequences. I needed to know exactly what to do in most of the situations that are presented to me. Because Ricky does have a really good squad, you know? When you have a Keldeo that can, like, at best 3-shot your entire squad. And, you know, a Sinistra, if not properly accounted for, can get out of control. You definitely need to make sure that, like, they are accounted for, but also you're not really playing reactive. And I want to obviously give a huge shout outs to my guy King here, because he really helped me in terms of getting my plans and everything in order. And he's been a very integral part, especially in the later part of the seasons, because we worked on this shit together. Like, and I could not have asked for a better person to, you know, like, to spitball ideas with and form proper plans around. And yeah, like, in that process, we made our teams. I mocked with a lot of people, and at a point, I was pretty undefeated despite making bad plays every now and then. But there was a day where I was just basically getting farmed by both, you know, Amold's new build, Joey, what Joey cooked, and even Mount. So it was really tough at that time, because I was like, oh my god, the fight is in 2 days, how am I gonna do this and everything? But like, everything happens for a reason. We realized what the issues were, we fixed it. And I think a great lesson that I learned here is that it's important to create a distinction between what's a luxury and what's a necessity. And in that vein, what was a luxury in that specific match was having Tinglu with dual hazards, because in most of the early mocks, spikes and rocks absolutely messed up a lot of my opponents and everything. But when I was presented with the matches with Joey and Mount, where they basically had lead Sash Meowscarada with their own spikes and everything, it just messed me up so much. And it made me realize that, okay, wait, hold on a second. I might need body press just for this situation, because even though it sounds very super niche and specific, the role that it was able to do in getting rid of an otherwise very problematic Pokemon early on, it just made it very much worth it. And to be honest, I realized later on that I just need rocks anyways to take down most of Ricky's squad, and that's pretty much what happened, right? Because he got me the lead with Specs, Keldeo, and everything, which was a problem early on, but he made aggressive plays. I knew when to fight back, and overall, I was able to keep that control that the more the game continued, and won it all. So yeah. Sorry, that was really long.
You're good. You're good. It's kind of your opportunity to talk about the win. I think that's definitely a really, really valid point. In one, kind of like luxury versus necessity, and not necessarily saying like, okay, maybe he doesn't bring this very specific set that's been smoking me, but if he does, do I just straight up lose? Yeah,
exactly.
Then tough shit, you got to cover it. You know, you're gonna have to make sacrifices in the builder and things like that, and be able to kind of make up for another spot. So I think that's definitely fair, and recognizing that, you know, you're not gonna be able to do everything with one mod. Sometimes a mod's job is going to be this and this only, and it better do it specifically. And it looks like it came out well, and the build was very, very solid throughout. We have another champion. We're going to talk more about Uzi's PPL run specifically and his final soon, but we also have another champion in the call, Mr. King L5. We had DCL finals. Woohoo! Just finished, and we want to talk about putting in some work for a thing. I'm sure we both know we've all of us have played in like these more team organized events. I mean, the amount of effort that goes into an entire season of a team tournament like this is fucking insane. So I'm sure you're excited it's over, especially now that you have the hardware as well.
I mean, I really enjoy that sort of like right? The team tournaments. So, you know, I'm not like waiting for it to be done. I'm just trying to win, you know. And we ended up doing that. And this was like probably by far the strongest roster I've ever drafted on paper. So it's glad that we were able to convert that into a win, you know.
Yeah, and again, we can see a pretty dominant win too. You said one of the VGC games wasn't reported, so like I think you said you guys lost that one.
It was 5-2.
And I'm assuming Genius plus Genius versus Aberforth just didn't happen at that point, right?
Yeah, because the series was already over, and they didn't really care, you know.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I thought it was the case with both, but even then, I mean, like, 5-2 series is
5-2.
Pretty dominant. We'll be watching one of the games for these in Game of the Week, and you said that you're going to be kind of going over the series a little bit more in depth, either on stream or in a video, right?
Yeah, so my plan is to do a bunch of streams about like the DCL season as a whole, maybe like tomorrow. But, you know, we're recording this on Monday, so I'll probably stream on Tuesday. That'll be in the past by the time this comes out, so check that out.
That is how dates work, yes sir.
But yeah, just like generally in the next few weeks, I want to make a bunch of content about that sort of thing. Should be good.
Big. Yep. And we talk. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say just like his music. I like it.
Yeah, we're waiting for the EP.
Right.
Speaking of finals and Genius, who we just said, the transitions go crazy today. We also had the completion of the Genius Cup, and I thought this would be fun to kind of like just talk about really quick. We're not gonna like go over the games or anything like that, but for those of you who don't know, Genius Cup was a tournament that Smogon ran recently. I forget who like the actual like organizers of it were specifically. I think Sage was one of them. But
it
was go ahead.
Sage and Psionical were the hosts, and then Genius did the tiering.
Yeah. So do you want to kind of explain the main premise behind the tournament, the tiers and stuff?
So I don't know if you have it up on the screen or not, but so the tiers include, I think it was a 20-point Ponyta.
Yeah, no. It wasn't a 1-point Ponyta, Uzi. It was like you had to sing 20 points to win the $50, and hella people did.
So anyways, this Ponyta is like, if you win the tournament with a Ponyta on your team, you get $50. Otherwise, there's no prize. Otherwise, it's just for fun, you know. But he decided to allow all sorts of crazy things like Terra Dragapult, Palkia Origin, stuff like that. Yeah, it's.
What a polar bear doing in Texas, Arlington? What?
There's a lot of polar bears in Arlington, Texas right now with these tiers. There's a couple crazy things, especially considering it's 8mon. You know, like,
so,
man.
Genius is kind of like well known for having really hot takes when it comes to tiering. And since he's like such a prominent player in like the Smoke on Tours, they decided to give him a tournament where he gets to basically just dictate the draft board. So you get to see all these crazy things being allowed, and then some things being super cheap that like he thinks are terrible, but other people think are good. So you have like 14-point Terapagos and stuff like that.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Fire.
Yeah. I didn't play in it, but it's definitely a wonky
I remember when
board.
they announced this, I really wanted to play in it, but like the timing of the tournament was when I was on a billion other things. This would have made such a fire YouTube video, dude. This would have made such a fire YouTube video. I was actually bummed I couldn't play in it. But Josh, Ultra Player, ended up winning this tournament here with UC. I have his team on screen. Yeah, I have his team on screen right now. It's Dragapult, Zamazenta, Tinglu, Galarian Slowking, Moltres, Terra Diancie, Lurantis, and Terra Frogadier. So, Terrapult broken. Who would have thought? I remember my first draft, like in Gen 8 or Gen 9. I played with Terrapult. It was probably the easiest time I've ever had building and playing in my entire life.
Was it you? Wasn't it Matt?
No, not in Wi-Fi. It was like the first Showdown League I played. I uploaded it was like an old APA Showdown League. Yeah. But yeah, I think it was Matt O'Shea and BBR also had it. And yeah, Terra Ghost, right? Let's go.
Pokemon, huh?
Yeah. Oh man, you want to talk about an unfair Pokemon? But yeah, congrats to Josh. Didn't win $50 because he was pussy. Did not draft Ponyta, but he did win the tournament.
He slayed a lot of Ponytas.
I'm sure
I
that
think he personally took out at least 3 Ponytas in the bracket.
This team is very anti-Ponyta too. It seems like he C-teamed all the Ponytas, you know? What is Ponyta gonna do with a Tinglu? Actually, he got a valuable burn off. But
he's trying, okay?
He's trying. Hey, I mean, we saw it came to a couple games too, right? Like I remember seeing replays popping up of like Ponyta actually pulling up to a couple of games, which is pretty funny. Because essentially it's just like a 20-point handicap, but
literally,
like 90 base speed, get a wisp off, you know? Maybe.
Yeah. 90, yeah.
But other than that, in Wi-Fi news, other than obviously PPL just ending, we had BBL Week 1 go up recently. I have the results for the games on screen, or at least the standings. Really, really narrow Week 1. Lots of hacks all the way throughout, but nobody got like absolutely like super smoked, which was fun to see. If you guys haven't been checking that on the channel, I have been making the playlist for that as well. So if you want to go to the channel or go to the playlist, you can see every Week 1 game is uploaded there. Week 2 games will go up on Sunday. Not too much to talk about other than that. And then we also, bouncing right back to Showdown, we had DFL finals go, or semifinals happen. Do you know which teams made it there? I actually don't have the DFL doc pulled up, but do you know which teams made it?
The finals are Rising Voltekers. Is that how it's pronounced? I don't know. And then Beast Recognized Beasts in the finals. So basically all of my friends made finals. So
is this the Vergi team?
Vergi,
Goat. That's my goat. There we go.
Then on the other side we have Panda, or Nick Numbers. He goes by a bunch of different names. And Ashi. And I don't know anyone else on that roster, but
shouts to them.
Two. I hope they all win.
Dude, why can't we all just win?
If I had to root for someone, I gotta go for the Vergi Money Guy team.
Especially on the 2 Kilo podcast, we're big on Vergi here. We have to get a Vergi mention once per episode, so he says something in the Discord server about it. So big, I want the Vergi team to win too. We'll take it.
If we record an episode with Vergi, we'll not be able to air it.
Don't worry, we're not recording an episode with Vergi. It's not happening. But let's go ahead.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's going to be kind of all the news for the week and results and things like that. We can kind of jump into talking a little bit more about Uzi. And we had I know you've explained this before in your videos, but for the people who haven't seen it, I had someone in my Discord server, we kind of like opened up with like, hey, is there anything you want us to ask Uzi specifically? And a person in my Discord server asked, why Killa Watchel? The Mons have become like very synonymous with you. You're mentioned as a draft league player. It's kind of like the Uzi Mon at this point. I know it's not your mascot, but it's, almost like your unofficial mascot. Why is that the guy? Why is Killa Watchel such a big focus for you?
That's a funny thing because it's all based on circumstances, right? Because before this, obviously, I saw Mount absolutely decimate people with it in the PPL Season 1. And I realized that, okay, since we're doing low-tier Terra Captains, I may as well choose Killa Watchel since it has such a great track record and everything. And I still distinctly remember I made sure to get this thing very early because before anybody else could end up snagging it. And at that point, I was like, okay, I'm still in my Xenoblade Chronicles craze and everything. Peak series, by the way, 10 out of 10. But and so I realized that okay, may as well just name these Pokemon after some of these characters. Anything that makes me think resonates with them, and so on. So yeah, I named I ended up naming mine after Uni, who's now such a synonymous, has become such a synonymous part of my stuff, and it's still really shocking to me how things ended up developing because, in my first week match against Drew, I kind of got really unlucky. I missed 2 bloody air slashes, 95% accurate moves for a base 75 power move. Game Freak, what are you doing here? And like both of them were like super, crucial in terms of winning this game. And like when that happened, I saw a lot of the people dropping comments about, "Wow, this thing is washed, this thing is ass," and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, okay, you know what? Let's see how things go in the next weeks and everything. And then come week 2, I brought it out. It took a psychic and it died. Yes. A non-stat psychic because it died to a critical hit.
Oh, okay.
So,
I was like, non-stat.
no.
That's really sad. Okay.
Yeah. Like a non. I mean, it was a bad play from me regardless. I should not have brought up Killa Watchel in against an Iron Moth, but I was expecting a double and everything. But it ended up like really biting me in the arse. It died, and then I noticed that despite how great of a game that was, a lot of the people were just dropping comments about Uni not being able to get the job done, right? And I realized that, wait, hold on a second. There's something there. And to really pull back the curtain a bit, by the time I ended up coming back to Draft League and everything, I noticed a lot of the people step it up with their content. Especially in terms of, the storytelling and how they present their stuff. Like, Mephisto would literally make it a case about telling people to have their fathers fuck their fuck their girlfriends and everything, and all that stuff. And I realized that that's something I want to do because while I love Draft League and everything, first and foremost, I am a content creator. And when I came back, it came back with the mission of trying to make sure that I make myself stand out much more, and really just become one of the more focal points of what we end up doing. Because I feel like Sword and Shield really took that away from me. The whole timer, the chess timer, and everything, it wasn't good. But at that point, something else happened, which I'm not sure if it would be wise to get into, but like with the other league I was in at that time, and when that ended up going down, I realized that I do not really want this to be what people remember me for, and you are only remembered for what you do now rather than what you do back then. And so like literally on the day of the upload, I figured that, wait, since a lot of the people are reacting to this, and funnily enough, she absolutely decimated my opponent in the week 3 upload. Let's do it. Let's make a story out of it. And that was like literally my light bulb moment, because by the time I made it, as I was making it, I was having such a great time, and like when whatever ideas that I had, which I usually got to bargain with myself a lot to actually do it, I went through with it, I created it, I uploaded it, and seeing just how much the people reacted positively to it, it made me happy, and it felt like, okay, this is the time things are finally starting to change. And from there, I basically made that a focal point of my channel moving forward with these weekly intros. And it's no exaggeration when I say that this literally would not have happened without Uni, and literally just mixing what happens in these games to some of the memes from Xenoblade and everything, seeing a lot of people react so positively to it. And I would go on to say, is one of the most organic things that really ended up happening. And I'm just glad that based on the circumstances that were present, I made the most out of it, and most importantly, the people ended up enjoying it. And yeah, that's how Uni became the bus and how she's now a core part of my channel.
Big. There you go.
It does also help that, you know, a lot of the flying resist and SV are not that good.
They are not.
We're kind of putting
Nope.
the perfect storm.
The Mon's actually good.
Yep.
Especially in the context of these lower tier terrors and things like that. 1000%. 1000%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember watching Mount use it and I was like, all right, this thing might be legit, you know? But then
Not
you also
for
have to
sure.
think, well, is it just the Mount effect? Like every mon he uses seems better. You know what I mean?
He turns him to gold. He makes blasters look good.
Yep.
Yep. He
But,
flailed over someone in semifinals.
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah, that was
That was
one of the
cool.
craziest sets ever. That was super freaking crazy. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
He loves his flail sets on Blastoise. Because you get the torrent and the normal coverage.
Big.
Yeah.
Funny
And the
enough,
way-
I actually considered bringing a flail Blastoise to finals.
In
Really?
DCL?
Yeah, in DCL, because I was playing Sword and Shield.
Oh no. So we ain't
We
gonna
have
get mirror
Blastoise
herbed either.
draft.
Let's go.
Yeah. So, but the opponent had like a Dragonite with E-Speed, so I was like, well,
Maybe
Maybe
not.
not. they did actually end up bringing D-Knight, so hey,
Maybe
it
it
would have
could've
worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
But anyways, let's move on. So, you knew going into this that you were gonna take a step back from draft for at least a while, you know?
Yeah.
So how did that impact like this one season of PPL? Did it make you want to try even harder? Was it like, all right, after this I'm done, leave it all on the table kind of thing?
Yeah. I would say that's a fair assessment because the more I looked at it at this season, I saw it not just as a swan song, but as a way of making sure that like I'm able to leave things on my own terms. And admittedly, you know, mid-season and everything, because like draft league is such a huge commitment, right? Especially when you're doing things for not just 8 weeks, but this time 9 weeks. And like fucking
That's
playoffs
more.
and everything. Yeah, that's more. 8 plus 1 equals 9.
Yeah, get those fingers up.
Yeah,
See you
exactly.
count.
How else are you supposed to count? How else are you supposed to count? Without fingers? Come on.
I have a calculator on my computer that I use sometimes, but yeah.
Yeah,
I do like the
exactly.
analog thing as well.
Oh man, but nah, like yeah, that's obviously since it's such a huge commitment, and well, when you are someone who tries to make unique intros every single week and everything, it definitely takes a toll on you, which is why I would say midpoint I kind of started like losing a lot of the steam that I had early on, because I'll tell you this, especially for the first 2 weeks, I built like built and played as if every match was like my last ever match, and I feel like that was reflected really well in the results that I had. But obviously midway, I was a bit tired, and I was like, okay, let me just take it easy for a bit, and yeah, it kind of bit me big time, especially in my first match against Gravy. But
Was that the what is it? Final
Gotcha.
Gambit.
Final Gambit, yeah, Final Gambit Zangoose.
I remember you were asking me about, is this good? I'm like, no, it's not good.
But I
I
still
want to
bought
use
it.
it. It's fun.
Yeah, I wanna
And it
use
won't
it.
work. I promise it won't work.
To be fair, it was taking down Iron Crowns and everything, but nah, like it was. I
Yeah,
flew a
yeah.
bit too close to the sun with that one.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely, it was not a good set. But like, I later on realized that okay, if I want to win this thing, if I want to take this thing home, because let's be honest, this was my first draft league. Like PPL was actually my first draft league back, and I could not make playoffs because I was using a team that I felt did not exactly suit my style, and the other Pokemon that were available were basically dog shit. So I was just working with trash at the end of the day, and I felt like I had something to prove with how I did this time around, especially with the seasons that came afterwards. So, you know, I got more serious, and especially with the help that I was able to get from the people that were with me, you know, obviously shout outs to Emil, Mount, who literally mocked me every single week except for Vepsis, and important distinction. And
Got
most
priorities.
important, yeah, exactly. You choosing him over me? How could you? I'm kidding. But most importantly, like obviously my guy King, he was like I reached out to him. He was more than happy to help, and like we just like bounced off ideas with each other and everything. And I felt like I was able to tap into something that I really struggle in showing, especially in the past seasons, which is a proper game plan, but most importantly, not letting my impulses get to me.
Yeah,
and,
for sure.
Yeah, exactly. I was far more methodical with my actions and everything, and it was just far more. The results just pretty much showed in itself. So, like, especially from I would say week 8, yeah. From week 8, week 8 up until the end of the season, I prepared as if my entire life depended on it, because I really wanted to leave without any regrets. And yeah, I would say that I got my just rewards for that, thankfully.
Yeah. So, you said you made it to finals. Made it to finals 4 times in a row now.
4 seasons in a row. Yep.
Yeah. So, Frosty Random from the Discord server wanted to know, what would you say is the biggest lesson you've learned over that time? Like, what has made you more consistent in that way?
Well, I would say that not just having a proper team that knows exactly how to handle what situations, but also making sure that you are able to play in a way where you don't exactly need to make aggressive plays to get yourself in the game, right? Because
mid-grounds, basically.
Yeah, proper fucking mid-grounds. Like, no drawback plays whatsoever. It's less taxing on your head. You're able to play more consistently, and that just makes the game state, the game plan, and everything just far more easier, to be completely honest. Because that's that I feel is a great lesson. But in that similar vein, as the saying goes, too much of anything is bad. And if you end up making consistently risk-averse plays and trying to go for the complete mid-grounds, sometimes it kind of makes you dull in your overall instincts in knowing when to fucking fight back. Especially when the opponents drive you into a corner. And I feel like that was a skill that I really lost throughout the beginning of my run, and but in the end of my PPL run, I was able to gain that back. But also make sure it's not really something that's just balls to the wall plays. Like, there's an actual thought process behind dedicating to these aggressive plays, knowing when your opponent is on the back foot, understanding that this is the play that they are gonna make in order to get themselves back in the game, and to just nip that in the bud, you make that aggressive play. And yeah, I think that's the best takeaway I can have, like reaching that perfect middle ground,
No, I think,
yeah, for sure.
I think that's a really important distinction to make too, of like, you can know, or at least not know, but at least have like a very educated guesses. I think my opponent's going to do this. I think they're going to switch into this thing. But having a well-structured enough team, or being in a dominating position enough to be like, they can do that, but I'm fine. Like, I can still do exactly what I need to do. I don't need to deviate from my game plan. They can make this switch into this switch in, but I know my path from there, so I don't need to make a crazy double, because if I get that wrong, shit, like that's gonna kind of throw everything off. So I think that's good. And obviously the whole preparation aspect. I mean, you see time and time again from the people who are seeing the most consistent success, whether it be you, whether it be L5 in these team tours, or other Wi-Fi players, Joey, Malte, people, things like that. Addison, when she was playing Wi-Fi, or in her recent DCL run, there's a lot of time and effort that goes into this. And if you want to see consistent results, you have to put your nose down and really fucking grind it throughout the week, You have to be willing to do so. So I think that's a really important thing too, is really, really being able to kind of critically evaluate your matchup and your team throughout the week, opposed to night before, this looks great, we'll be good to go, and jumping on. You're gonna win some games like that, but not as many as you'd like to, for sure. So
yeah, exactly.
I think that's fair.
For me, it's always like individual like tours and leagues. I'm always like, 15-minute prep is fine. Yeah, it'll work out. Anything team related, I always try hard.
In individual leagues that I'm doing for fun on the side, or like leagues I'm going to do a movie on, or individual tournaments like the small gun tournaments, I always play those for videos. A little bit more casual. I don't build right before, but I'll build a couple days before, and I'll try my best to build a good team, but I'm not taking mocks and things like that. But all this YouTube shit, I'm sure Uzi can attest to this too. It's not fun uploading losses. It's really not fun getting your ass beat and then going, all right, upload. I edited this for 4 hours. Like, woo! Like, go out to everybody. So those ones too. I mean, fourth wall break. I had like a 3-week break in between BBL week 1 and 2 because we played super early because we finished super early. Dude, the amount of mocks I took for that game, it was a little unhealthy, but I was really happy with the build though, because of that. And again, we're really able to kind of grind it out and feel a lot better than I did week 1. If you guys have seen that video, so yeah, but we can't.
Yeah, I think you lost week 1 in spectacular fashion, and you're like, yep. And then all of a sudden, I see you in my DMs. Like,
immediately, I said we're not losing week 2. Okay, to be fair, week 1, I did not grind my week 1 team. I didn't put an Aspearberry on my AV Mew, unfortunately, but we grinded that team. Did we grind it to the level of the week 2 team against Vepsis? Probably not. I was in your DMs. I was in Cass's DMs. I took a billy mocks for that one, and it was probably one of my best teams I've built in a while.
Yeah, it's very good.
It was a very good team. Like, it was a very good one. But moving on to the next question, we kind of talked about it a little bit. Oh, yeah?
Before we do that, there was one thing that you said that actually reminded me of something important. Especially, like, you brought up about how much it's not fun to upload losses and everything, right? No. And I attest to that completely, right? Because nobody likes losing.
Yeah.
But that said, I will say that on one of the other bigger lessons that I've learned, especially throughout this 1 year of playing Draft League and from the content side of things, I would say that even in your worst of losses, you still gotta make sure that the video is presented in such a way where people can enjoy it in the same vein as the ones that you actually win. Because I see a lot of people, and this is not me just talking smack about them, it's just me trying to be objective. Like, sometimes people end up uploading their videos in such a way where the moment you listen to it, whether it be in how the editing is done or how the music is playing, they lost the game.
Shout out to thumbnails and titles. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some people, you could tell.
Yeah, and I'm like, come on, guys, you're doing this to grow your channel and everything. Like, don't make it obvious to the viewer, right? Like, even in your worst of losses, you gotta try and present it in a way where people are able to enjoy it on that certain scale, because that is how you're able to not just gain consistency, but able to, I think, tap into that next level of, who you are as a content creator. So, yeah, I think that's a very nice takeaway for people to remember. Carry on.
Oh, 100%. No, I think that's definitely fair. It's something that I've talked about a lot. That's it's hard kind of balancing the content creator aspect and kind of that competitive nature aspect. It's something I definitely struggle with. So I think that's totally a very, very valid
it's the same for me,
thing.
Bro. Same for me.
So no, I think that's definitely fair. But speaking of content and kind of on those presenting your content well and things like that, we talked a little bit about your storylines. Obviously, there's Killa Watchel and that whole giant storyline. Is there any other storylines that you've come up with throughout, this content creation journey that you've been on over the last year and a half or so that stick out to you? Any that are like big favorites outside of that one, or is the Killa Watchel one just like kind of the holy grail of the storylines that you have right now?
I mean, I would personally say that the whole thing with Uni is an extension of this overarching story that I am really pulling out, because I don't want this to sound super self-absorbed or pretentious or whatever, but I would say that this whole storyline that I've gotten into is kind of like it's been based around my own journey throughout this all, because and I'll stand by this opinion when I say that my path to getting to where I am right now, especially in the Draft League, in the Wi-Fi Draft League community, and the overall holy grail of YouTube viewership and all that stuff, it's been pretty much full. It's been pretty much been full of twists and turns, and like taking paths that where I felt at times that I needed to do extra things to get people to look at me in a more favorable way, and like, I'm not trying to say that to make myself a victim or anything, because I think once again you are only going to be remembered for what you do right now and how you react to these circumstances. But one thing that I really wanted to highlight and hammer home in these narratives that I've said, which is obviously laced with references to the series that I like, and some humor every now and then, because I don't want, like it to be this melodramatic story or whatever. It's to highlight that, okay, this is how hard I've worked to get to where I am right now. And if I'm going against a specific opponent, if I have a history with them, I'm going to highlight said history in a very over dramatized fashion and try to sell people on this encounter that's going to happen, why it means to me. And obviously, like, how I view it sounds like an exaggeration and everything, but it's just how I am. I like to, I like to make sure that everything I do ends up being put proper meaning into. And that was pretty much the whole story through SPL Season 2. Because, again, it's all based on circumstances. I reached all the way to the finals. I lost to Joey. Partially through that sludge bomb crit and everything. And it felt devastating. And I might as well just peel back the curtain a bit. But I actually was not originally in the roster of SPL Season 2. Like, that was told to me a long time ago, and I openly accepted that. But that's where this whole mindset came, that okay, you gotta make everything matter right now. And that's pretty much been this whole story that carried out in these week-to-week intros and everything. Because every now and then I'll just like to have a good time, make some jokes, make some jokes, and have this manic side of mine, like make some funny, like crazy ass narratives out of it, like the one which you saw with Gravy's nicknames and everything, riding Squirty, whip me Dada, somebody fucking euthanize this man. I'm kidding. I love this guy.
Kidding, of course.
Yeah, we're kidding. I love Jack. He's a great guy. But like, I wanted to really highlight that aspect. And what's even more funnier is that in that time, another story was happening with the thing that I'm really into, which is professional wrestling, with a certain wrestler named Cody Rhodes, who as well had a similar journey of, okay, he started in the biggest promotion, but later on, like, he got held down so much to the point where he got fed up and decided to leave, and then go on his own individual journey across different promotions, start that company's first rival promotion in AEW, and then come back eventually to, as this new main event guy, as he went on his own journey to finally finish his story and become the WWE champion at WrestleMania. And I felt like that's a parallel that I could draw between myself and him, and that's something that really came together in these week-to-week stories. And by the end of it all, I feel like I was able to tell it really well. I was able to get a lot of people interested in what I was doing, and it was very fulfilling. Yeah. So other than the weeks where I'm not filled with manic ideas about how to make something so unserious, I try and make sure that, I tell a proper story with my opponents, like my journey to getting here and how I want to win it all. So yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
So we're gonna try to move things along because we have a lot to get through here.
Oh,
it's already been like half an hour.
No, you're good.
Yeah. So I have a much more straightforward question now.
Okay.
So, what is your favorite Pokemon in general, and then what is your favorite Pokemon to use in draft, if they're different?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
It's always an interesting question. Some people think crossover. Oh, there you go. In general or in draft?
In general.
In general? Okay.
I really liked how they made the story out of him in the anime, with Ash and Paula and everything. That was fucking amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And in draft, originally it was Infernape too, because I found a lot of success with it in Ultra Sun and Moon. Like, every time I used Infernape, I made finals, which is pretty insane. But like, it kind of fell off a cliff in Generation 9, sadly. So it's hard to say. I think my favorite Pokemon to use in draft is either Nidoqueen or Weavile. Yeah.
Oh, I miss Nidoqueen so much, man. That was a good.
Yeah.
That's a good callback. I play way too much Paldeodex, dude. I miss like
so much.
Yeah.
the Nidos in general. When I think of Draft League, I think of the Nidos. Like how good those guys are, the crazy value you get out of them. That's a great answer.
You just do everything.
That's a deep cut draft answer too. You can tell someone's been playing a minute when they aren't like Dragapult. They're like fucking Nido King or Nidoqueen, man. That's my guy or that's my girl, man. I love me some Nidoqueen. That's a good answer.
Exactly.
I'm here for it.
Thank you.
More of a Nido King guy myself, but I get you. They're both incredible.
I just like the additional bulk that Nidoqueen is able to provide, and and the fact that it can be fat, but it also still knows how to hit hard thanks to Sheer Force, Super Fang, Toxic Spikes, and all these things. It's like, Sorry, you were saying? Okay.
Funny thing about Infernape, right? So you say it's fallen off a cliff in Gen 9, which like is kind of true, you know? But towards the kind of beginning of the gen, maybe not right at the beginning, but like towards the beginning, in Clash of Kings, which is one of the like team tournaments, we ended up drafting a team with Infernape and Monferno both on it.
Oh, dude, I forgot about that.
Father and son. That was so funny.
God.
And the team was so fire.
I remember playing against you guys. I think the team won when we played it too.
Yeah.
I remember
that
being
team went
so
crazy
mad.
positive. And we actually brought Monferno, I think, at least twice. Which was so funny because a lot of times Infernape, you know, one of the great things about it is you can run bulky sets and you can run offensive sets, and both of them are really good with the typing.
They are.
But sometimes you want both. So you have Monferno to do the bulky role, set up rocks, Will-O-Wisp, slow U-turn, and then Infernape to be like the choice scarf guy that sometimes you need to revenge like the base 100 boosting guys. You know, that's a pretty common thing in the older gens. And in the new gen, but yeah. So that was super funny. And the reason why we actually got Monferno is because we were kind of like coping about Terra Ogerpon was like fully allowed back in the day.
It was like a month after it was allowed. Yeah, or released, yeah.
Yeah,
Wait,
Heartflame
all
was
Ogre
allowed.
Pons?
Yeah. It was
So
omnicolor.
Heartflame was allowed, yeah.
So if you draft one Ogerpon, you have all of them.
Yeah, it was like a month. It was like a month after the game's drop, and we're like, fuck it, like, or the DLC drop. We're like, it's fine, you know, we'll deal with it.
It was less than a month.
Yeah,
it was like the DLC with Ogerpon just dropped like a week or two ago. Like, well, we'll just toss it on the draft board in a way that sort of makes sense. But it turned out being super broken.
That's crazy.
We knew it was gonna be good, so we're like, we need something that can take 2 Ivy Cudgels. Like, that would be nice to have, and Monferno can actually do that. So Infernape can't. Monferno's actually bulkier.
With Eevee and stuff like that. Dude, the goat. Yeah. Now, is he gonna set up a Swords Dance in your mouth? No, you get the slow encore too. You get the slow encore. Let's go. Never mind. Big Monferno. It's a counter. Let's go. Actually, really quick before we move on to the next. I have seen Infernape, obviously big fall off this gen, but recently Keegan drafted it in BBL. And he got it with Gren, and that was very like Usum pilled to me. I was like, oh, Gren Infernape. Like, it was very. So I hope he goes crazy with it. And obviously he has like Lunala, Terragambit, things like that. But like the Gren Infernape offensive core, but like Gren's broken now. I was here for it. I'm super excited to see it hopefully do well, because again, that's another mon. When I think of Usum draft, I'm like, oh. I remember the age-old debates when we were still doing tier-based drafts and shit, and people were like, is Infernape a tier 1 or a tier 2? You know, it's like that. Just very nostalgic mon when it comes to draft 2. But
I always loved the Infernape plus the Water Dark. That's like one of my favorite combinations because the offensive typings work so well together.
Oh, they're perfect.
I've used it with Mega Shark back before it was allowed to speed boost. So like properly way back in the day.
Yeah, first turn Mega.
First turn Mega Shark plus Infernape. That was one of my favorite teams to use
I can't believe you drafted that guy with first turn Mega too.
Well, it was super cheap is the thing.
Probably like 5-6 points, something like that.
Yeah.
But going
funny
on,
enough, that league, the finals was me with Mega Shark versus Money Guy with Mega Camel.
Go two demon. Actually, okay, again, dude. Now we're going off on tangents. I love Camel. I think I so slept on.
It's so
he fits
cool.
on like 3 teams ever specifically, but you find the build that Mega Camel fits on. Super shice, dude. Like
I got
super
top
nice.
16 with a Mega Camel one time. It's the only Pokemon that I ever make shiny.
Really?
It's just so cool.
It is so cool.
Dude, fuck your Tapu Koko and your Zero Aura. That's my goat.
Yep.
Exactly.
Right, we can move on now.
Yeah, moving on to the next before we start talking about shitty low tier megas for an hour. We have we're gonna talk a little bit more about PPL, and I think this is a interesting one. We kind of touched on it. Can you kind of like talk us about the process for preparing for a big finals game like PPL. I know obviously you put in a ton of work this season, and I know like me and L5 have talked about you guys would build kind of multiple team styles throughout the season, things like that. Was there anything extra above and beyond what you were doing for quarters, semis, week 8, or was it kind of just more of the same? We were kind of on that firing at 100% for that long, and it was truly that 100%.
No, I think you pretty much hit it right on the head, especially near the end. Because, again, for me, I consider this both a good thing and also a bad thing. And I hope this does not come off as me bragging, because it's not my intent. But, like, in all the 4 finals that I have been in, I always made sure that the prep and the time that I put in is literally, it puts all my prep before that to shame. And sometimes it kind of reaches unhealthy degrees, because when you put in so much amount of time and effort, and then you start to see that you're falling off a cliff and everything, you're like, what the fuck is this? My entire self-worth, my self-esteem.
Dude, I feel you. You don't gotta tell me twice.
Yep.
Siri, where's the nearest bridge?
Exactly. Made me want to fucking terrestrialize myself into a ghost type. But
oh, that's crazy.
I'm kidding. But partially. But like nah, for real though. I think another part of my process, in terms of making sure I was ready, was ensuring that I reached out to other people that I would not take help, that I hadn't taken help from. In the like throughout the regular season, because I was like, okay, having your circle and everything is good, but you will not be able to find out your definitive answer until you're able to step out and get extra perspectives. And in that vein, you know, like the mocks that I had with Daria, who like literally went out of her way to study Ricky's games and be able to get a clear gauge on exactly how he plays. And guess what? That's exactly what happened, because she called Scarf Meowscarada, and that's exactly what came. Which is why when I saw that U-turn, I was like, oh yeah, that's Scarf. It can't be anything else. And like the overall perspectives they were able to shed to me, not just in how he played, but also but also, you know, like ideas of what he can potentially bring. It really came a long way in just cementing to me a clear game plan of how I wanted to do things. So even when things were going on, I never really felt like I was truly in trouble, because there were some situations where it could have been shiced, especially if Keldeo got a fucking crit with Secret Sword and everything. But thankfully Ricky used up all the, you know, luck with crits in our P4G match. But like putting that aside, I prepared in such a way where I felt like there was no sequence of turns and events that I hadn't already gone through. And just having that piece of knowledge by my side gave me that, you know, personal assurance and confidence that, okay, I will be fine. Yeah, he paralyzed me and everything, but I can still pull it back. Yeah, my Enamorous has only one more entry before it dies the next time to Stealth Rocks, but I will still be fine, because I can position myself in a way to make sure that I can pull that off like at the right time. And well, through me playing patiently and everything and sticking to this information that was stuck inside of me, I was able to pull it out in the end. Yeah,
it's a lot easier to make those decisions in game when you have experience in very similar situations.
Yeah,
and you know what has worked in mocks and what has not worked. That's something that's important, so you know what not to do.
Building out those mocks that you kind of build that flow chart in your mind, you know, of you know, like this happens, it can go this way, and being able to kind of adjust accordingly.
Because you only have so much time in the actual turns, so if you're having to figure everything out for the first time in the actual game, that's tough, man.
Oh yeah, you start panicking and then you overplay, or then you second guess, or you run down to, you know, the last 3 seconds, you see 3, 2, and you're like, shit, you gotta click a button, so it doesn't auto select for you. So yeah, I think that is the biggest thing, especially too, and we talked about it a little bit when Addison was on the podcast, of like the stressors of playing on Wi-Fi opposed to Showdown, like having to commentate and having to be entertaining as well as information gather without being able to hover over and be like 62%. Okay, well, let's look at my count, you know? So like all of those factors added up, you want to give yourself the most information beforehand possible to where like I also know immediately when I'm playing a game if that's boosting item or not, because I know the calcs because I've played it multiple times. If I'm used to doing 40 and it does 50, I'm like, oh shit, or like it does 52, I'm like, oh, that's bandit. I don't have to go shit 10 seconds, you know. Like I'm good to go. So I think that is the preparation is big,
and it's also really fucking appalling. I'm sorry, but I need to rag on this shit. How especially on Wi-Fi, the UI is so shittily designed by Game Freak that there are times where when you pivot out and everything, you can't see the goddamn HP bar. Why?
Oh, yeah. So you have to
literally transparent. I can see this. You can easily
Showdown
there.
Yeah.
So annoying. Sorry.
you're good. Trust me. There's no benefit to playing Wi-Fi other than the animations looking okay sometimes, and people liking to watch it more. I've always said this a billion times. If the streets liked watching me play Showdown Leagues, I probably wouldn't be playing Wi-Fi right now, man. I don't need the animations. They do it. It is a pain. It is an absolute pain playing on Wi-Fi. The streets, they're always messing with me, man. You know me in the streets.
I know you in the street. Yep.
The streets don't lie. Yes.
Alrighty, with that being said though, we can kind of jump onto our little waffling portion. We'll kind of bounce through 2 mons on your team that were they've kind of been a big point of discussion either on the podcast or especially Jason or on my channel that you saw great success with in this season. The first being Aloe. Now I do want to preface this, looking at you, speaking of the streets and looking at you motherfuckers, I don't think it's bad. I think it's worth where it's at. I think it's a good mon. I think it's worth where it's at. But you obviously saw a ton of success with Aloe, and I do know a lot of people that do not think Aloe is very good. Can you talk to us a little bit about the strengths and the weaknesses of Aloe's, how you really felt like you were able to bring out the most in it? Because you said it before the podcast, I actually didn't know the stat, that nobody killed it besides you when you clicked Healing Wish. Like, nobody killed the fat fish once, which is crazy. But do you want to give us some insight on that guy? Because you use it really well.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I would say that this was something that I pretty much expected the moment I was able to get my hands on it, because I actually have prior experience to using Alomomola. I used it 2 times in Ultra Sun and Moon, and in both times I ended up reaching finals with it. So that's another one of my like staple mons that I feel like I was able to find great success with. And I, just like a lot of the other naysayers out there, the Alomomola deniers, were like did not think that it was worth shit at first, because it's like, oh my god, my opponent can just set up a substitute on it. It's called the 0 damage. This Pokemon is really bad. But like,
is that
the
what
person
Owen sounds like?
Oh my god, that's what they think I sound like. I know that. You can do that sometimes, but yeah.
I'm not talking about you.
No, I know.
Yeah. But no, like when I like the one thing the person told me that convinced me to draft this which was Mr. Murkrow. I don't know if any of you remember him. Yeah, he literally told me anybody who says that doesn't know how to use Aloe right, and that really struck a chord with me, because I was like, okay, you know what? Let's see what it's about. And mind you, this was an Alomomola before it had Flip Turn. Okay, like its only pivoting move was Baton Pass. So take that for what you would. But what I find really interesting was that not just from Generation 7 but to Generation 9, one constant that can be made is that like it excelled in the roles based on the tools it had available during that. Because in Ultra Sun and Moon, it could knock off items. It can in Generation 9, of course. But most importantly, it can, toxic a lot of potential opponents, and like really position yourself in a way where you're able to not just, put things on a timer, but also most importantly, abuse its ridiculous HP stat, okay? You would be hard pressed to find much Pokemon out there that are capable of literally bringing a 10% Pokemon back to full health thanks to its wish. Mm-hmm. And Alomomola is one of those Pokemon. And you don't gotta be max HP to pull that off, bruh. So...
yeah, true.
Yeah,
very seldom do you actually have to be.
Yeah, exactly. And in that similar vein, right? That is to me the one of the best strengths of Alomomola. And in Generation 9, I feel like I definitely use that better because not just of it having access to flip turn in itself, which is such a great way of being able to gain momentum, but also it fulfills a niche that is very difficult to find in Generation 9. And that is having this level of sponge that is not able to just take all these hits, but also be able to, like get your momentum back, but also make the opportunity cost as minuscule as possible. Because that's what the thing with Generation 9. It's offense, and in one way or another, an exchange is always going to be forced. That will ultimately dictate how you decide to play the rest of your game. But with Alomomola, the clear distinction is, thanks to it having the ability called Regenerator, it's able to offset all this damage and basically not just able to reposition yourself really well, but also make sure that this thing can just come in later on and just do the same thing over and over again without having to give a damn. Like, this, I can literally pull up this stat because of somebody ended up commenting it on my channel. But in PPL Finals, Alomomola literally did over 1,500 damage.
Yeah, that's pretty nuts.
And it ended the game at full HP, okay? I hope you understand just how fucking insane that.
Yeah, that's a pretty nice number.
I mean, the combination of boots and regen is just so powerful, especially when you're that bulky. Now, the thing with Aloe is, I think of it kind of as a lose condition, you know what I mean? Like, if you allow your opponent to just take advantage of it, they will do so. They will do that. So
you have to be very deliberate with your positioning if you're using it.
Yeah.
Like, it is. I don't think it's an easy mod to use. I really don't. I think it does have a high ceiling, but I think it's also very easy to put yourself in that lose condition spot with it.
Yeah, so like it's kind of like the CEO of like taking a hit and getting momentum back in your camp, like sponging a big hit, flip turning out, and now you have a turn to get your offense back in. Yeah, that's what it's really good at. But in I think it was semifinals of DCL, or was it finals? No, it was semifinals. So we concocted this Zarude set where if it got in on Alomomola at any point, the game was over. And
dude,
what I mean by that is
this podcast was sponsored by Big Zarude.
Yeah,
Zarude mentioned 7 minutes.
We're getting a Zarude mention counter. I need somebody to go back and see how many times we've said Zarude's name in this fucking podcast.
But so we had this Zarude, right, that can sub up, and we built it in such a way where we actually don't care about getting encored. Because if we sub up as they go Tinkaton, and then it's like a slow encore. So we literally just bulk up on it.
Yeah, nothing happens.
Yeah, and then so they encore, then they have to switch out as we bulk again. We bulk one more time as they break the sub, then they only have one more turn of encore. So we bulk up one more time, take any hit, and then drain punch everything back, and we're like +5 or whatever, +4, +5, and we just win the game.
That's insane.
Obviously, there's some stuff they could have brought to prevent that, but the likely builds that we were looking at, they all lost, dude.
Gotcha.
So, but the thing is, we didn't actually end up bringing that set anyways at the end of it, but I just thought that was funny.
It's a good example. At least it's a good example. And again, that's something that
we were able to get the situation by having our Cinderace in, and the only good fire resist on their team was Aloe. So you just U-turn on it, and then that's your turn.
And I'm sure you recognize. I'm sure you recognize these positions as you were playing throughout the season too, Uzi. Of like, okay, Aloe can't be in here, like, or shit goes bad, like Aloe cannot be in here. So I might have to make a little bit more of an aggressive offensive pivot in on something, because if I do get U-turn on, or this double happens, or they are this set, it might not go well. I do think though that a big portion of Aloe's success was you having with God Tinglu. I think that's a really good defensive core. I think like you go ahead and sub. Like I'm gonna flip turn out into my Tinglu and goodbye. I'll see you later. I think that is a big reason to Aloe's success too, is how broken that guy is. And we could have a Tinglu Glaze podcast too. All the dark types in Gen 9 are so broken. That guy's him. So but you end up using it really well. Another one though that you use really well is one we've been talking about recently on the podcast a lot, is Big Gouging Fire. It's an interesting mod in the sense like there's no reason for anybody to like not think it's incredible, right? It's Zardex with an item. But it was really hyped up when it first dropped, and then for some reason, at least around where I've been at and things I've been seeing, it kind of just like, not that people thought it was bad, but it kind of just slid under the radar. And then with you using it, and then we saw a big uptake in DCL. We talked about a couple episodes. Gouging, that guy's fucking insane. Do you wanna talk about Mr. Gouging Fire and how broken he is too?
Of course. You're seeing me twiddling my fingers right now. Touching the perfect response for my child, yes. But nah, like, Gouging Fire, the moment I saw this Pokemon and its stats, I felt like I had something to prove. Because before this, I've heard from a lot of people, including those that I like really respect as competitors and also personal friends of mine, where they really talk about how it's like in Sun, it's basically the second coming of Jesus and everything. It's really tough to switch into and so on. But without it, while it's good, it's basically a fatter Arcanine. That is what they said.
Wow, I never heard that one. I heard that it was a little mid outside of Sun. Fatter Arcanine is tough. That's crazy.
Yeah, when I heard that, like, I just I
put
didn't
the lab coat on, so it's time to it's time to go to work. Yeah, wrong.
I looked at that person funny, but and I realized that okay, no, something's got to be done this time around about that. And so like, I want to obviously give a huge shout outs and thanks to Maverick Shooters, because he was a very core part of me drafting this team. He was kind of against me drafting Tinglu round 2, but knowing how things worked out, I think I made the right choice. But we concocted a great squad where we were able to, not just understand the assignment of what role which Pokemon is meant to fulfill, but also how they can support each other so that the one thing that they're good at, it gets highlighted with interest. And in that similar vein, when I was using Gouging Fire throughout the season, one easy cheat code that I realized was that, hold on a second, most people expect it as an end game mon. Let's just fucking start the game off with it and just make everybody just run around screaming and crying. And like, that's exactly what happened with week 1. Where shout outs to Emil, by the way, for the Maranga Berry Broly. Like, we set up the Sun, Dragon Dance, got rid of the castle, and did irreparable damage before Uni just came in and just annihilated everything. And I did that same thing too against, Matt? Yeah, Matt. My week 2 guy. Dr. Slacking was his old name. Yes, Matt plays draft. And, like, I really struggled with that. I really struggled with preparing for that because he had a fucking Last Respects Houndstone and everything. And was doing 60% to my Tinglu with Last Respects. But, like, through understanding that, okay, its main role is to not just force exchanges, but take away great pieces of my opponent so that the rest of my other, elements can come in and just do their jobs. And in that vein, I feel like a lot of people have misguided assumptions that I'm really glad that are starting to get cleared up right now about Gouging Fire, because, yeah, people can talk about its sweeps being really hard to pull off because people are gonna over prep for it and then some. But like, that's not what it's always meant to do. Just being able to take down core piece elements so that you are able to put yourself in an advantageous position and be able to benefit from it. That's a very huge benefit, right? Like, we're talking about a Pokemon that gets 3-hit KO'd by Ogerpon's Ivy Cudgel. Okay, I don't need max HP for that shit. Okay, so like, it's, to me, is really in that vein, that's something that I felt that I did really well with Gouging Fire, and especially throughout the playoffs, where I feel like it really showed how great it was. It just literally was such a great luxury for me to have, where I can make it come in and not just fulfill a defensive role thanks to its typing and its great natural bulk, but if my opponent plays carelessly, I can capitalize on and just straight up take them down. So like, and that's exactly what happened, right? Defensively, it could come in on a lot of different occasions, but it also has the upside of being able to set up and then just plow through holes against my opponent's side. So yeah, I think Gouging Fire is definitely him, and it's not a case of like Wi-Fi players have a lower skill level, because some people don't know when to admit when they're being wrong. Like yeah. I'm really glad that people are now finally starting to see what it is, because the stats speak for itself. The typing speaks for itself, and it's Fire and Dragon typing speaks for itself. He's the real deal. Enough said.
Yeah, so you're saying how like leading off with it is like pretty effective.
Yeah.
I found that to be absolutely the case for Zardex in Sun and Moon. It was a while back now, but
the parallels are pretty crazy with Zardex. Like when you actually sit down and think about it, like, it's cliche, but same on.
In the Sun and Moon Cup, the first one that Smogon did, I made finals by basically permanently leading Zardex. And it was actually so funny because at a certain point, I'm like, I've been talking in general chat about how everyone is doing Zardex wrong. They just need to lead it. And I know my opponent knows that I'm going to lead it. So like, do I lead it still, or do I just counter their counter Zardex?
Yeah.
You know? But I ended up leading it in at least 90% of my games and made finals. And it was super funny. That team was like kind of the classic Coco Cart Zardex kind of archetype that has been so common recently. And yeah, so it's just a great way to start off the game. Just punch some holes, get some progress, and that's it.
Well, and
let the rest of your offense do.
And
and then you don't even need removal.
And the thing is too with this thing, and again, kind of with your team structure, there's very often where maybe even if it didn't happen in the game, but we have the double healing wish in the back, right? And I've been preaching. I don't know. I'm very healing wish pilled. It is like my favorite move in the game. I love the move healing wish. Yeah, I absolutely love it. And again, it's kind of that idea of like, yeah, you might have like you're gonna have to like burn a resource to bring my gouging down to 10%, and then you'll have a way of revenging it, but. What if I switch in my Alomomola and then I healing wish it? And I've already broken down. I've broken down my own check to myself, right? And like gouging's the one that does that, because like there's nothing that takes on that dual stab combination plus like earthquake coverage if you need or something. There's literally nothing, right? There's nothing that's like I wall the shit out of gouging. There's things that check it, but there's nothing that's like you can do nothing as Gouging Fire. So. Break through it on your own, and then be fat as hell, come back in later, get healing wished up, and then they go, damn, I gotta kill this guy twice. Like, this sucks. Yeah. So I think that's, again, a big proponent. I think your team in particular had great momentum into it and great ways of facilitating it, whether it be to win in that endgame scenario or break for itself and let it win again later with a healing wish. So yeah. But for Razzie, we have to mention he's not broken. we're not banning him.
He's not broken. He just needs to know how to use it.
Yeah, it's very cool, and it's been cool to see it. Like, again, it was weird because at first I remember people were gassing it, and people were like, I never heard Fat or Arcanine, but I did hear, some people be like, he's okay. If anything, I'd kind of prefer to not draft him on Sun so we can properly support it instead of kind of going that overload Sun offense. I think Sun's kind of fallen out of favor in my mind too. I'm not big on like hard Sun in SV anyways.
We've seen a lot of like pocket Sun be like reasonably effective, but I think full Sun teams are like
falling out of favor.
Pretty rare to be awesome, I know Panda, or
it's almost like a matchup fish kind of.
He loves Sun. He loves Sun so much. He's like, all right, I'm getting Torkoal, I'm getting Specs, Walking Wake. I'm just clicking the biggest buttons I can find, and that he loves that kind of thing. But I think for normal people, it's really not the most consistent way to play the game.
Yeah, it's very like it's almost like a matchup fish, especially in those like team tour settings too. It feels like very matchup fishy. There's probably some teams that are just like absolutely blown over by Sun offense, and there's some teams who are just like, damn, stealth rocks. Like, this sucks. But yeah, definitely a cool thing to kind of explore a little bit more. Now, really quick before we get on to our Discord questions, this is something that you wanted to talk about, Uzi, so I'm going to kind of hand the mic to you on this one as well. I'm just going to read off what we have in the thing. You have written down here skill level / player potential philosophy. What exactly do you mean by that, and what did you want to talk about today in that regard?
Yeah, I think that the idea of, not just someone's potential, but in terms of how good they can get in a game like Pokemon, having a clear set limit associated with it is a very narrow-minded way of thinking, personally. And like, I have seen, and I'm not even just saying this based on what comments I got where like shit for brain spiritum goes like saying this guy sucks and will always suck and whatever. No, I've ended up hearing that sort of shit from a lot of great players, honestly, that are great in draft league and so on, and I just don't see it that way, because for me, I wanna take my my own experience as reference, and this is not me trying to make myself look big or whatever, because this is just how I strongly feel. I would say that when I started this whole thing, like I had an improvement curve, but there was a certain point where I feel like my improvement ended up plateauing. And it's not a matter of me, not taking help from the best of the people out there. I actually was. A lot of the people, who like gave me their ideas, and at points would literally build teams for me, and so on, so that I could go in and do it all. Like, for full disclosure, I made sure that to let them know that like we can work on this together, but they insisted on doing it by themselves, and that kind of just became the norm. But like whenever I would compete in one of the more higher competitive draft leagues out there, like at that time the NPL and the NPL minors and everything, I did not have good records. I would always end up losing, and it was it was difficult for me because nobody likes losing. But I and not just that. While I would say that I've had a pretty positive record, all things considered, in Wi-Fi, I would say I reached absolute rock bottom during Sword and Shield, because obviously that timer was absolutely dog shit and everything, and that definitely affected how I played. But I also felt like I wasn't really improving anymore, and it reached a point where the person who asked me this question at that time, it wasn't malicious by any means, but this is just how I felt at that time from him asking me that question. He asked me based on how I viewed myself as a draft league competitor, because he saw that like I was stuck in everything, and from how he said it kind of gave me the impression that he felt that this was as good as it's ever gonna get for me, that I'm not gonna go past that certain point. And like, while at that time I brushed it aside, and as based on whatever was my fragile sense of confidence at that point, it hurt. It really hurt at that time, and it turned out that some specific people that I used to work with before, they also thought that I had a certain skill level associated with me that I could not go past. And that was a very tough thing for me to go through during then, because I try to operate with this mindset that anybody can improve and reach that next level. So when that was happening and I stepped away from draft league, I felt that, damn, yeah, I guess this is it for me. But come Generation 9, when I ended up coming back, obviously the PPL season that I did at first with the team that I wasn't using, I didn't make playoffs with it because I was a substitute coach, and the stuff that I used didn't feel my style. But then in that next league that I was in, which we're not gonna get into because that will take like 3 hours.
Redacted.
Redacted, yes, redacted.
The underscore league. Yeah, blank. Answer blank here.
Exactly. Yeah.
They already
insert name here. Yeah, name cannot be blank. I started having one of my best performances. Right. I literally went 9-1 in that specific league. with my assistant coach at that time, my assistant coach and one of my best friends, Matty Brolick, shout out to my goat, playing 2 of my games due to circumstances where I literally just moved into Sydney and another personal situation. But when I was doing that and I was able to perform on that level of scale, these specific people that I respect, would reach out to that person that I knew who would help me out a lot and ask them that, wait, is this guy did this guy get better at his did this guy get better at this game, or is he just being carried by the builds? And that person at that time just said that Maddie played half of my games, which is a pretty insane thing to say, all things considered. But obviously that was not exactly what he meant to say. What he really wanted to say was that Maddie's prep was a very instrumental part of me being able to have the record that I had and so on. Which, I mean, if you're gonna try to look for ways to not just, challenge your own personal opinions and try to discredit me, like, you do you. But I disproved all of that later on. SPL Season 1, SPL Season 2, PPL Final Season, and even P4G to some extent, but although I was phoning it in for a lot of that, but got serious in the end. In all of these leagues, which I will stand on when I say fundamentally have better competition and better players, better players with this stiff competition, I ended up holding my own just fine. Lightning does not strike twice, thrice, or 4 times in a row. Right. And I was able to tap into all these lessons that I learned, not just in the past generations, but this time around as well. And I felt like it was such an instrumental part of really not just proving to myself, but also believing in what I do right now. And when I say that, the idea of skill levels reaching a certain point and not going past that, especially in a game like Pokemon, it's fucking bullshit. I think it's absolutely bullshit because it completely undermines the basic human potential that exists within all of us. And with me saying this, I'm not trying to say that I am one of the best competitive, best draft league players out there or whatever, because I don't believe that. I genuinely don't. And to illustrate how I feel, I'm gonna say it like this. I think any person in this community, any person who I end up facing, they have just as much of a strong chance in beating me as I do with them. It all comes down to the time, effort, and also how they learn from their mistakes, how they register how things can be improved, and make sure that these changes are applied. And in that vein, for me to beat them, I need to make sure I prepare in such a way that is able to outdo them. Because here's a proven fact in life. The best in the world are in the position they are in because they put in an insane amount of time and effort that supersedes the average Joes around there. You can ask Wolfie Glick. You can look at all these pages upon damage calcs he has written down and everything. Like, this dude is fucking insane. But he don't call himself world champ for no reason. He is that because he put in the time and effort. So in that vein, what I'm trying to get at here is that I think people can definitely improve and reach that next level. And just because it's not happening now, that doesn't mean it's gonna be a permanent thing. Because we have our own brains that develop in their own pace. Deign to remember instead of trying to put like labels on others and so on, because they want to believe that what they think is gospel. But at the end of the day, listen, man, you are just like me, a normal human being, and you're gonna die as a normal human being. So yeah,
I mean, that's fair. I think it's the case with anything in life. You put enough work, you can get better. there's we can't really hit limits when we don't know what those limits are, you know? Like, nobody is, you know, become perfect at anything, so there's always something else to strive for. So, no, I think I think that's totally fair. Alrighty, we'll jump right into the Discord questions. Alpha, do you want to go over the first one here?
Yeah, so we have a few questions here. This first one is from Winter Redstone. So he wants to know about duplicate typings. You know, because a lot of people, they're like, you know, I already have a dark type, I can't get another dark type. You know, that's something very common that you see in newer players.
Especially new, yeah.
Like, when is it okay, and at what point do you have too many of one type? Does it vary for different types? Bug type versus water type? Now, obviously, there's some archetypes that are just type spam. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, Rain is the perfect example of this.
Yeah.
Like, in DPL Season 8, we drafted a Sword and Shield team that had, I think,
Swish
5
Rain.
water types. Like 5 water
Rain.
types. Or was it 4? It was 4 or 5. Like, some insane amount.
Out of 8, keep in mind, too. These are full
out of
11 mon
8
teams.
Pokemon
Yeah.
So, and that team was great. You know, it wasn't like super broken, but it won a lot of games, and it didn't lose very many.
Yeah.
I think Hunter played it pretty well.
You see Dark Spam, too. What was it, Hab's team? In Summer Seasonal Finals? Didn't he have 3 Dark types out of 8?
Both of the finals in the seasonal had multiple dark types. One side on PZZ you had Meowscarada plus Greninja, and the Greninja was Terra. And on the other side it was Terrazarude plus
Roaring Moon.
what other dark type?
Roaring Moon.
Yeah. And then also had a Sableye, but that doesn't really count. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's a ghost type, not a dark type. Keep it real.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people they hold themselves back getting duplicate types because they're like, I don't want to be too weak to like grass because I have too many water types. And to that there is a point, right? A lot of times with these double typings, you want to make sure they don't overlap too much in weaknesses. For example, like double ground, you're gonna see so often Lando T plus another ground type that's not weak to ice. You see Lando T plus Seismitoad pretty often in old gens. I know back in the day I used to spam Lando T plus Piloswine. Just stuff like that is like super good.
Or you always see like
so good.
You always see double ground with like Zygarde too in old gens, right? Like Zygarde Steelix kind of thing. Another one that's like not weak.
And then
gets
JCM
rocks.
Shadow, and I think it was it Usum Cup or Sword Shield Cup recently? It was one of those, but he drafted Zygarde plus Lando T, which is like theoretically an absolute no-no, right? You're so weak to ice, right? Then he had a Mega Pinsir on top, which is another Pokemon weak to ice, but he still managed to get like super high up placement in the tournament. I forget exactly where he ended, but it was like top 8 or something similar to that. Maybe 16, maybe 8, doesn't matter. But it's kind of like breaking through that mental barrier, like, I can't do this. You can. It might be a little bit more polarizing in your matchups. Like, if your opponent's weak to ground, god damn, you're going to win that game. You know? But if they have, like, really excellent ground checks, that's going to be a little bit more difficult for you. So it's kind of like, how far do you want to go? It's really up to you, you know?
Yeah.
Like, Rain, a perfect example. If my opponent has 17 water resist, I'm not winning that game. But nobody has 17 water resist. That's the thing. Like, everyone else is like trying to build a pretty balanced team the same way that you might be trying to as well. So there is some merit of like doubling up on offensive typing, and one Pokemon breaks through the check for the other one to sweep the end game, you know?
Yeah.
That's something that's super common. I know in PPL finals we were talking about Enamorus plus Killa Watchel, right? The only excellent checks to them were Iron Treads, which didn't actually end up coming, surprisingly, and Rotom Heat. So we figured out if we just like basically stay in and Moonblast repeatedly with Enamorus, then Killa Watchel can come in later and there's no flying resist anymore, and vice versa, right? Whichever one comes first. Now, the actual game didn't go that way, but a few mocks certainly did. It's like finding those ways to like overpower a check. That's something that you're really looking for when you're having these duplicate offensive typings. Yeah.
I think you covered it.
There's nothing wrong with them.
Mm-hmm.
You just do have to be a little bit careful.
I think you covered it well. Offensively, we kind of have to think of how are we going to like use these guys together for one to open up the other one, kind of like the overload principle. Defensively, it's just, I think this is the biggest one too for a lot of people. If we're drafting 2 Pokemon, say, you know, I don't have an example off the top of my head, but we can draft 2 Pokemon that have the same typing that have 2 defensive purposes on the team too, right? And this isn't like the most like, you know, by the books example, but like I said, if we have like a Lando T, or like you said, if we have like a Lando T, getting another ground that's not necessarily weak to ice really opens up the other one to maybe be more offensive or check something else in the other team, right? Lando T can check like offensive fightings very, very well. Whereas Piloswine definitely does not do so. But Piloswine can check those electrics in those gens a lot better due to, you know, being able to be thick fat for hidden power fires, be neutral or no, resistant to hidden power ice because of thick fat as well as being immune to, you know, the volt switch. And it also stretches your opponent thin in the sense of like, shit, do I want to hidden power grass for the Piloswine that's going to switch in, or do I want to hit the Landorus harder if that wants to switch in kind of thing? So,
let me grab something real quick. I gotta show you one of these teams that we drafted in DCL.
Pretty similar.
It's an ORAS team. Here, let me just screenshot it and I'll send it in the chat. But
Uzi, do you have any thoughts on doubling up on typings and things like that while he's grabbing that build?
Yeah, I think like I very much used to mirror the same sentiments that, oh my god, I already have a ground job, I cannot get another one and whatever bullshit. And admittedly, when I came back, that ideal was definitely there in some certain aspects, but I feel like it just depends on the role that you are trying to accomplish, because again, dark types are really, really good in this metagame, okay? Like, you can have a Weavile and a Hydreigon is kind of mid right now anyways, right? It's kind of eh. Yeah, it's kind of eh. I guess, fine, Weavile and Tinglu is not gonna, you're not gonna need to sacrifice your firstborn to have a Weavile and Tinglu by your side.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, you know, like, during my SPL Season 1 run, I had both Great Tusk and Ursaluna with me. And I feel like I was able to use that really well because both had different roles to fulfill at the end of the day. And while both have great breaking powers, one excels in a specific kind of defense while the other one has specific niches that it can fulfill, right? So for example, Great Tusk gets absolutely mollywopped by ghost types that have Will-O-Wisp and everything. But with Ursaluna, that completely shuts it down and disincentivizes that because it can just literally come in and abuse that. So it just depends on the role that you're trying to fulfill and what niche it has. And if you have a clear plan with that, then absolutely they do have a place. And there's a reason why, you know, during the Generation 6 and 7s, flying spam was a thing. And, you know, in Generation 9, we have dark spam and all that stuff. So no, it's not a taboo. It works. Yeah.
And you guys can obviously see how I pulled up the team for all you viewers. This team has a lot of 4x weaknesses. It's kind of that idea of like, oh shit, what are you gonna hidden power? You know?
Yeah,
it's the Ponyard that makes it funny.
Even better.
Double ground, triple steel. Like, this is so fun. You know what I mean? I love teams like this. And like, what are you gonna do? Run HP fire, HP ground, HP ice? You can't run all of those. So it really forces really difficult decisions in prep.
And calculated, like,
we like that.
and you can also kind of tailor your game plans around that. Like, okay, they're much more likely to run HP ice on this than they are HP fire, so my Scizor is super, super free here. You know, whatever you can, you know, whatever in that sense. So yeah,
you basically force the opponent to make concessions when they are building. Like, sure, I can hit Mega Scizor with HP fire, but if I do that, I'm never breaking through Heatran, you know?
Oh, 100%. Like yeah.
And that was super fun. This team should have been 3-0, but unlucky Paras. Oh well.
Man.
Such a cool team, though.
Next up, we have another question here from Fishbrat saying, is there any Pokemon that you've drafted that didn't live up to the hype? And what Pokemon that you drafted had no hype around it and blew you away with what it did? So, myself, it was literally just on the screen. We could talk about it. In Generation 9 specifically, it was Latios in the BBR Summer Scramble. I've always been like the biggest Latios guy. I mean, in Gen 8, Gen 7, I'd spam this dude. I love Z-Lati. I love Latios last gen. One of my championships last gen was Lati Sand. I love the archetype. I thought it was so much fun. But then I drafted in Scramble, and I don't know what it is, man. It just doesn't have the same power that it did before. You don't pick up the Okos that you want, even with that cool Luster Purge buff. We don't pick up the Okos that we want. We definitely don't live anything anymore with how strong everything is. So those like fun Calm Mind variants, not a good time. Now Terra Latios is a different idea. I think that guy's very broken. I used that in GG Inc. and we didn't lose a game with that guy, so maybe we just need to let him Terra so he can be good again. But without it, I was very underwhelmed. As for, and I'll let you guys go through each of your guys' like kind of examples in order. One that I liked, maybe specifically for the format that I was playing, but when we were playing in BBT, the tournament that we ran out of BBL to kind of like test the tiers for the league and things like that, I used Thundy Eye, and an L5 call me a dumb idiot for this, but I loved it. I thought it was awesome. I specifically in that metagame, maybe because I love the prankster T-waves that it forced on a lot of those big scary Ubers, and the Terra Electrics that it forced on a lot of those really scary offensive Terras that were getting drafted. I found really valuable. I love the speed tier, and it still finds those matchups where it's difficult to switch into. There was a matchup where I was just 4 attacks Thunderous because it was hard to switch into for the opponent. So I don't know. I've seen that guy really fall off a cliff in like the amount of times it's been drafted, but I really fucked with it, at least in that Ubers kind of setting. What about UL5? Mon you liked, Mon you hated?
So one Mon that I really enjoy in SV is Latios. I think it's so much better than Latios. Like, even for the same points, I would rather have Latios this gen, which is like the only gen where that's the case, right? But just Screen's Healing Wish is like so powerful in Sun and Moon, or not Sun and Moon, Scarlet Violet. Like, just having that as an option is so nice. And then I found, like, offensively, there's nothing that Latios can do that Latios can't do, which is something different from other gens. Like, back in the day, Gen 6 or Gen 7, like, yeah, my Latios, it's alright, but it's not picking up the KOs. Whereas Latios, you're doing 100% to a lot of Pokemon, or you're doing 2-hit KOing a lot of walls, whereas Latios might not. But here, in SV, I found Specs Latios is one of its most potent sets. We've brought that to many Team Tour games. And yeah, I just found it to be super versatile. The speed tier is super nice for Paldea decks. Ground resist, you can't toxic it anymore, so bulky calm mindsets are so back. It's just a great Pokemon that I wasn't expecting to really love. And
keep in mind, he's also talking non-Terra Latios. Terra Latios has obviously been really incredible. Like, that's a given, but this is like
used
non-Terra.
Terra Latios in DPL Season 8. This was kind of when people were sleeping on Terra Latios. They weren't fully awake yet.
That guy's broken.
Still snoozing.
That guy's so broken.
So we actually got it round 8 on a team with Great Tusk. So yeah, that team was really good. But yeah, it's a good Pokemon. I enjoy it. And something that I maybe am not as big a fan of. Let's see. I'm just kind of looking through the draft board at this point.
Someone that you think is a fraud. I guess it's like who's on Fraud Watch.
Yeah.
And you think the streets are saying is
what
great.
have I used that is like maybe less good than people think? Well, real quick, I think Keldeo is super underrated in SV. So just throw that out there real quick.
Positive King L5. He can only think of the guys that are underrated, man. Let's just shine a spotlight on these guys. What a good guy.
Loved me the horse.
I actually super hated Iron Moth with no Terra. I thought it was so bad. But I don't think that's really a hot take. I think that's a very lukewarm take.
Yeah, I've actually even heard Terramoth is kind of people being like, better, but
no, Terramoth is good for sure.
Yeah.
Maybe something more surprising would be Ursaluna Blood Moon.
That's a good one.
We had that in
BCL
1, and it was actually so hard to justify bringing that team. I think it was kind of a draft issue, but
it offers
the
very
looked so
little
broken
utility.
when other people used it, and then when we used it, it was so ass. You know what I mean?
It's hard being a ground that doesn't rock. It really is hard being a ground that doesn't rock at all, and isn't very bulky when you actually use it.
Oh, I'm the biggest Palucha fan of all time in SV. Biggest tentacruel hater, perchance.
No, dude. That's a good answer. Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
we love Tentacruel in the.
I should have said Tentacruel Frame 1.
I know, dude. They were not. Nobody was happy with you after that one, man. They were in your comments yelling at you. Even had nice guy Mountay saying, "Hey, I like Tentacruel." You shouldn't say that.
Tentacruel is everything wrong with society.
I think that was the title. Yeah.
It is literally the title of my video.
Oh my god. All right, what about you, Uzi? Something that you used and were a little underwhelmed with, and something that you used and you're like, wow, this guy's broken.
Oh gosh. Honestly, it's difficult for me to find the right mons to describe that fulfill that specific role.
Mm-hmm.
Because, to be honest, I can't really think of a single draft league at that time that really under-delivered to me, except I guess Volcanion during Generation 7. Volcanion was there, I think. Because there was no heavy-duty booty back then, or anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, in that sense, like, I thought that, oh my god, this thing is gonna be a perfect wall breaker. It's gonna break through every scream and team and everything, but no. Rocks would get up, I would be very sad, and then I would be like, why did I take this Pokemon? No, it's not, it's not fun, no. But as far as Pokemon goes that really, really fucking surprised me in how it performed, that's a really tough question. Terra Rotom fan.
Oh, there you go. That's a good one. In those low tier Terra formats, yeah.
Yeah. Like, especially in SPL Season 2, when I drafted this Pokemon, they were like, oh, wow, Rotom fan is gonna be the pseudo-voodoo of your team. It's gonna be the perfect bench warmer and everything. But I was like, oh, you sweet summer child, you do not know what you're about to see. Because this is the first time that, Rotom fan's ability actually fucking works. Terra, Electric,
True.
Levitate. Yeah, that's like, it's literally every single upside you can possibly get. And, being able to abuse moves like Pain Split, that very powerful Volt Switch, Nasty Plot, Air Slash, and all that kind of stuff. I think it was a very good staple in SPL Season 2 that it literally outshined even my Terra fucking Galarian Articuno. And I literally used that shit in finals only. Used that shit 3 times. And in finals, it was able to do it, win me the game. But these are my 2 Pokemon.
It's a good example. Alrighty, we're gonna go ahead and jump into everybody's favorite section of the week. If you guys want to open it up as well, don't worry. We won't.
Can I just hate on something real quick?
Of course.
Sandy Shocks is so bad.
I forgot you're the biggest Sandy Shocks hater too. Why didn't you say that one? You're throwing.
No. I used to think it was alright because, Hazard Lead is pretty cool. But that's the only thing it can do. It's so bad.
Yeah, Air Balloon Ground type, hello.
Right? What are you gonna do? Try attack it? And then if you're running try attack, you can't run the dual hazard. Or you're dropping a stab, so what's the point? Come on.
Yeah, and then you also have to click try attack to be able to click Earth Power later and do 30% to the ground type anyways.
yeah.
Dude, I think that's valid. I was also a big fan. I think if you're also in one of those low tier, because I have seen low tier Terra leagues. I know the league that Playmore is playing in right now, they have Terra Shocks. I think that guy's fire with Terra. If you're in a league where
cool.
When it's that top, or I don't know if you remember when we were testing for Clash of Klings, where low tier is one of the formats. We had that. We were testing that as one of the Terra captains, and I used it in the tour, the little mini tour that we did. Holy shit, that guy was crazy in low tier. He was super broken. You just Terra Ice in your Mamoswine with electric coverage, or electric stab. So, and hazards.
That low tier draft board was so terrible.
Oh, it was pretty bad.
So many things were way too broken for that.
Yeah, it was.
I think Terra T-Tar was way too good for that.
Oh yeah, we it was very liberal, low tier. It was like you draft. That old concept. But we're gonna go ahead and jump into everybody's favorite section.
Need to do it.
Everybody's favorite. I would be down. Everybody's favorite section. Waffler of the week before we get into our game of the week. Now, if you guys want to pull up this replay as well, it's 4.1 draft. So the context behind this that I understand, this was sent to me by LOQP as a submission for this week. This, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, is OLT. It's a long-standing draft league. They recently had their first season back recently, and they always do like a Radical Red draft or off-season tournament league. This is that. This is Brian versus Jaska. Their teams look very similar. And when I initially opened this, I was like, this is just some funny shit happened in this game. Very similar. I'm like, okay, it was a big tournament, multiple draft pools. Maybe they just have like a very similar team archetype. Like I know in Radical Red, like Aerodactyl gets like head smash from Brave Bird. So Mega Arrow's super broken probably in this format, right? Yeah, it's a draft league based on like the Radical Red decks and buffs, basically. Like it's like a fun little off-season tournament. So like I was like, okay, they both have like similar team structures, and it makes sense. Like these teams are pretty broken. This team has a fortress, and this one has a Meganium. Everything's the same. And then I clicked play, and the game was over. If we look up at the chat, we see Brian and Jaska both very confused, and Brian saying that he thought he had Jaska's team. So I don't know if he didn't draft, or a buddy drafted for him, or I don't know, he had a long night out on the town. He was a little tipsy or something, man. He opened up the dock, built for his own team. Side. As he sees the other side, came to the matchup. They both had the same team, and he was like, "Oh shit, my bad. Good game, bro."
Was this on me?
Is this on me? This is on me. All right, good game, bro. And then he just laughed. So I have never seen this happen before, because like you'll see like, you know, similar team structures in these big tournaments, or very often these tournaments too, you'll have people just like draft for their friends because like I want to play, but I don't want to fucking draft, you know, and like these, you know, for fun leagues. I have a feeling that's what happened here, and hopefully it's not a team tournament, because that might be a little pissed to Brian if that was the case.
There's no way, right?
I hope not. I don't know. I remember in the past when they did it, I did it before, like years ago. They did do like a kind of like a team aspect, or you had like 2 or 3 people you were on like a little like mini team with. But I thought this was very funny. So I think this is a very perfect example of Waffler of the Week, of bringing your opponent's team in a game, pulling up and going, oh shit. One of us fucked up. Which one was it? But as for our game of the week, we have a game from DCL Finals. We have Bacon versus Kaif, right? Is that how you pronounce it? Is it Kaif or is it Kaif?
Kaif. I don't know.
Kaif.
Okay. It's Kaif. Sure. Hypnosis Demon, and I thought the name was very... I didn't notice it, because I initially saw the team preview, I was like, oh no, Big Smogon isn't gonna like this. Broken Hypnosis Ninetales in finals. Oh no.
But this is the guy.
Yeah, and then I saw, so Kaif is the one who has been spamming Hypnosis Ninetales, so much so that a select like 5 people were like, we have to ban sleep in Draft League. So this is a DCL Finals game, and I know you're gonna go over this more in depth. If you guys both want to pull up the replay, since I can't really share my screen without like super messing up the face cams.
Yeah,
I'm gonna watch this on fast. I'm gonna kind of commentate over it. If you guys want me to pause throughout the game at all to talk about anything that's going on, feel free. But we're kind of just gonna be play by play in it, because I know, like you said, you're gonna go over this a little bit more in depth in your stream, L5. So we're kind of just gonna be. Oh, go ahead.
This team also, I actually ended up being the one building this because Bacon was super busy with exams this week. So basically, this is my build.
Oh, shit.
It is Scarf Masquerada to cover for, you know, Roaring Moon, basically. Spin, Tusk, you know, all sorts of things. A speed booster on the Iron Moth. And then, of course, +1 Lilligant outside of Sun, because of no chlorophyll. You'll be able to outspeed a lot of Pokemon. Now, you do end up risking static Zapdos quite a bit, in theory, because of Scarf Masquerada. So, like, in previous Zapdos matchups, we ended up bringing protective pads.
Yeah.
But here, I just thought Scarf was too good to give up. Trapagos is going to be... Too. So, like, this team, you see no normal resist, right? They had a Bronzong and a Duraludon on the bench. Now, I figured at least Bronzong was going to come, but I didn't think Double Steal was ever possible here, because you need all the other guys. He actually went a step further and didn't bring any of the normal resists. So this is actually mono normal Trapagos with Rocks and Spin and Calm Mind. So Starstorm. So ended up being like the perfect set for this specific team. But yeah, and then Urshifu is actually not protective pads, by the way.
Is this water or this is water, right?
This is water. Yeah,
okay, I was gonna say I know you're a big water Shifu guy. I didn't think you'd have.
This is the team that we've been using with water Shifu. But we've been using pads like so much because it's such a great item on the Pokemon. It like, yeah, you get around Rocky Helmets and that's all it really needs. But here we actually didn't run Surging Strikes. We have Aqua Jet, we have Drain Punch and Terra Blast Fairy. with
Oh.
SD. Because if you look at it, what do we need Surging Strikes for, right?
It's the funny move.
It is funny, but this allows us to free up the item slot, so it's actually Citrus Berry.
Yeah.
Which actually ends up getting knocked off anyways, I'm pretty sure, but whatever.
Yeah.
And then this is Specs Latios plus Specs Moltres. Now we looked at this team and we're like, this team does not have a very great special wall. The only thing that really stops Specs Latios is the Bronzong, which will get absolutely nuked by Specs Moltres. So having that double Specs core...
And pressure by
pretty powerful here.
Terapagos too. If it's
And
the
it takes
only
advantage of the sun, right?
Mhm.
You know, they're obviously going to bring sun. It's a full sun team. So having Specs overheat from our Moltres in sun, like, we're just picking up a KO pretty much every time, or like massive chip on the Roaring Moon. So that's always nice. And then Klefki is just max defense, screens, spikes, and Dazzling Gleam.
Like
Yeah,
soft
so it's
moonjet.
just kind of the support. And if you're able to get up the dual screens, this Urshifu can set up super free, the Terapagos can set up for free, and then you get easier turns to pivot into your double Specs breakers. Alright, we can look into it now, though.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and press play. I have it on fast too. If you guys want to keep up with me at the same. Oh, not fast. That one way too fast. I lied. We're putting it on
It's
normal.
so fast.
Yeah, that was way faster than I thought it was gonna be. We're putting it back on down on
Oh
normal.
wow, the game's over.
So we have lead Latios into Ninetales right here. Immediately switching into Zapdos. That's gonna be
This
incredible.
is Max Spadef.
Oh
Max
jeez.
Spadef Zapdos.
Yeah, that
But
did.
here we get Sun Moltres with Specs Overheat in the sun.
Mhm.
It lives miraculously. Like, that's a min roll for sure. Because you're going to see this next turn. Bacon decides to go for the roll here. It's actually a pretty solid chance to kill from 53 at -2. So that just gives you a little bit of context about how low that first roll was.
Oh wow,
But
yeah.
anyways.
I mean, and it's your Arus is coming out anyway, so we can kind of adjust accordingly. So I mean, killing that Zapdos is absolutely incredible too for the rest of the team. Like Scarf Meow looks
yeah.
really obnoxious now, like incredibly obnoxious. We get up a Reflect as the Fire Fang does pop with the booster attack. Is gonna still 2-hit KO, but we get our Spike, which is nice, and at least one screen up. It's also Life Orb Boon, which is good to know. So
Yeah, this is Life Orb
that is-
attack booster. So that's the only way you can really 2-hit KO the Clef behind screens.
Well, I guess, no, it would be stronger than Earthquake too, yeah. So we set up an SC as the Lilligant comes out. It tries to Encore, so good scouting of said Encore. It actually ends up being Leftovers Lilligant, which is interesting. I actually
Yeah,
didn't see,
Leftovers-
was that Terra Lilligant? I assume?
It is, yeah.
It was, yeah.
In this game, it is... Let me check.
Double Draco picks off the Ninetales as the switch, and I mean, we just talked about it. I mean, this matchup in particular, what the hell do they do about Latios?
Draco Meteor.
Yeah, in this game, it's incredibly strong. We switch into our Fairy Shifu right here. Only take 3 hits from the Scale Shot, which is actually really nice. Going to keep us nice and healthy for whatever we want to deal with
Yeah,
afterwards.
this is like physically defensive Urshifu. Like max defense, like 196 or something. No, it's a 144 defense. A little bit of Spadef, and then it's like Adamant 16.
We're going to see a Synthesis. That is a very, very bulky Lilligant, though. I mean, I know you're not offensive, but that took nothing from that Terra Blast there. 82%?
Yeah.
Goodness gracious. It's going to synth
And
up
we have
again
the
here.
Sleep Merchant.
Oh, man. See, this is why it needs to be banned. Wait, open your eyes, sheeple. Sleep is broken. We double out here on the Iron Moth coming out. Moltres is in now. We see a Terra Fire, so it's double Terra. That does a lot of damage from the booster set. Flamethrower still does 38, so decent chunk here. We're just going to probably spam this Flamethrower until the cows come home just to keep this thing nice and low and not lose to it. Fiery Dance comes out. No boost, which is very, very nice. We're able to get into our Latios. We win a Speed Tie, presumably. Pick it off with a Psychic. Moon is going to come out next, but we are pretty
It's not
comfortable.
a Speed Tie.
Oh, it's not? Oh, is it? Oh, yeah, it was. You're
I've
right,
decided.
because it's... Okay. I was like, in my head, I was like, okay, it's
It could
booster
be,
special
it could
attack,
be.
but I was like, wait, if we just max special attack, then it doesn't matter anyways. It would just be booster. Never mind. Yeah, thanks, buddy. Life Orb Knockoff does a lot with a
Something
crit.
tells me that Flamethrower doing 36 is probably some HP investment. I
Yeah,
could be
that's
wrong,
fair.
but
That's fair. We're going to go ahead and get out into our Meow. We U-turn out. Welcome back, Mr. Uzi. We're almost done with this one. Latios is going to go ahead and come back out. Fun fact, another kill for Specs Latios in this game. Moon comes out, and it's the Psychic Immunity, but it has 2 more hits in it. So this game is all but locked. I don't really see a scenario in which the opposing side can do anything at all from here. So we do see the Scale Shot pop. Going to see another Life Orb tick right here. And from here, I mean... we're good to go, yeah? We just see Heavy Duty Boots pop. It's going to die. We see a Calm Mind, which is completely fine. And if we do outpace like a slower Tusk, it's really, really nice. We also punish them going for a Rapid Spin to try and get a speed boost in the Latios. We don't kill from there. Double Spin comes out. But as long as Latios doesn't get like crit or anything like that, we should always be fine. Oh, and it's Head Smash. It's not even Knock or Mega Horn. So we're able to live that, pick it off, and big dub. Yeah, I mean, the Latios masterclass in this game, too. I mean, you talked about it before. Yeah. This moment, absolutely insane here. Maybe it is there. And again, I also think, like, the natural bulk aspect is cool, right? Like, say this... Yeah. Now, obviously, this game is completely... Let's, like, change the scenarios completely. This is Latios, and this Tusk has, like, you know, Mega like Horn. An offensive Knock or a Mega Horn. They lose here.
It would just kill.
Yeah, the game's over, right? Like, the game's over because Mega Horn kills, and Mega Horn, obviously, or Close Combat, kill the Meowscarada on the Switch, and you're +2. Yeah. So, like, Latios is natural bulk. It wasn't Mega Horn here, but Latios lives in Mega Horn, right? From, like, a non-banded set.
Head Smash is base 150, so... And it only did, like, 52. So, judging from that, Mega Horn is doing, like, about 80... 89, something like that.
And that's around 90%. And that's still like a max offense with Latios. So like that natural bulk really does come into play.
No bulk at all.
So like that natural bulk just super comes into play and helps out a ton. Whereas good night Latios, if that does happen to be the coverage move. So you just kind of, you know, get the best of both worlds in this generation, which is cool. And I think there is like just a general value in those mons that live one but do crazy damage, right? Like Terapagos is a perfect example of that, right? Like that emergency, like shit's getting out of hand, but I'll take one. I'll hit you hard. So, that is going to be episode 5 of the 2 Hit KO podcast. Thank you so much, Uzi, for joining us throughout and kind of giving us your thought process and things like that on the season. Do you have anything else you want to promote and talk about? I know you're taking a break from draft, but do we have anything else content-wise that we're looking at, or is it kind of just take a break and relax with our championship belt?
I mean... Yeah, like, obviously goes without saying, but I'm grateful to Draft League for everything it's done for me. Like, it's literally the main reason why I started this whole journey as a content creator in the first place. And I really feel like this generation so far has been a culmination of all these years of not just me growing as a competitor, but also as a content creator. That said, my goal is still the same. Because I don't say it for no reason when I say that I am a content creator first and a competitor second. And in that vein, I got some pretty big ideas in store, you know? I've been cooking some ideas in terms of not just some shorts that I want to cover in terms of the beta leagues, but also I want to go back to the one thing that really helped me get a lot of eyes on my stuff, which is the Pokemon Adventures manga. I got a really cool video in store that I'm actually making right now as we speak. And so, like, that is something that I'm really stoked to get into. And there's gonna be far more stuff that's gonna be coming in, coming along. But goes without saying, I'm really grateful to all the people that helped me along the road to get to where I'm at right now. I'm currently in this sort of mindset right now where I no longer have to bargain with myself to actually put something out there, and none of this would be possible without, you know, the people that have supported me, and of course the guys that have helped me along the road, from your Amolds, your Mountays, your Joeys, and of course my guy King L5 and so on. So yeah, appreciate y'all, and I guess the perfect and apropos way to end it would be the story. It's never finished.
Heck yeah. So, of course, Uzi, all of his stuff is going to be linked down there. I'll put your Twitter and especially your YouTube. Go check him out. Obviously, if you enjoy the storytelling, I'm sure you'll enjoy what he's putting out next and things like that. Again, big congrats on the run and what you've done so far, and I'm excited to see what you do next. Anything from you, Mr. L5, or are we heading off for the night?
I think that's it for me. I'm planning on doing some streams and videos, you know, coming up of doing like the DCL analysis for all of the Infernal Armor games, because I kind of like don't like covering my own team's games just in case there's rematches in the playoffs. I don't want to give away anything, which there was, I think, one rematch in playoffs, but like it was
just in case, or even just like your guys' building process and how you're kind of approaching things.
But now that the season's over, I can really delve into that, and so I'm going to be definitely doing some streams this week in that topic.
Heck yeah. So and of course, L5 is always linked. L5 is always linked down there, and in the title I usually ping him and our guests and things of the sort. And next time we'll kind of go a little bit more in depth, and we'll have like a super DCL focus, like episode for Inferno Armory. Our next guest is going to be Aster J. So if you have any questions for Aster, go ahead, join the Discord server down in the description below. I'll announce it probably a few days after this too, like to the server for them to ask questions and things like that for Mr. Aster. And
great guy.
Yeah, dude, we love us some Aster J on the OGO.
Yeah, Aster was my co-captain for DCL. He didn't mention that.
Oh, well, yeah, I guess I did forget to. My bad. Assumption.
That's
he was
why.
co-captain in DCL, and obviously he's co-captain with you in like other tournaments and been a part of.
And he was the
plenty of
decider
teams.
game. He was the decider game in finals, so he's the one that got us over the finish line. Yeah, and I've worked with him a lot over the years. So
great player, and I'm sure a
It'll
lot
be
of
cool to
people
have
here
him on.
too remember he played in BBR, not last season but the season before, and he was our finals opponent. And in my opinion, by far the best player in the league. I'm hoping we can steal him back for next season. See if I can get him to keep playing Wi-Fi every once in a while. But yeah, that being said, I appreciate y'all. Again, drop a like if you enjoyed, sub if you're new. I'll see you guys next time. Adios.